All right. Welcome back, everyone. It is Suzanne Worthley with my co-host, Kim Hess.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
afternoon or evening, whenever
Or,
you're
or
watching
whenever you
this.
choose to listen, right? We are back with another episode of Energy Unleashed, where I take some of my client information, share it out with the audience so that we can all learn from one another. And then we bring Kim in to unleash it or dig it out, dig it deeper, kind of like unravel it. And I think this is going to be an interesting one because this is a subject that Kim and I talk about in lots of different ways through whatever I write or teach or present, and oftentimes her own individual live sessions.
Mhm.
I am going to do more of a summarization because this particular subject is pretty dear to my heart in terms of the things that I write and teach about. And it is the subject of soul contracts. So, as anything that Kim and I, or even myself in any way, offer, take what resonates, toss the rest. So basically, a soul contract is something that I believe deeply in. I think that this is something I bring forward most oftentimes in teaching and or in writings, but lots and lots of times in individual sessions too, because it can really assist a person in basically getting out of a victim mode. And I think that this is critical for our self-help and self-wellness, is to keep ourselves out of any victimization mode. So, Kim, did you even like know what a soul contract was and before,
Oh no,
back when you were normal?
right. If that's normal, I don't want to go back.
Right.
No, when I first started coming to you, it was the first time that I heard about soul contracts. I grew up in a very Catholic religion, and nothing like that was talked about, through my
Yeah,
schooling or church or anything like that. So, yeah, it's totally different concept, which makes so much more sense to me. So,
right.
yeah,
Do
it's
you do you remember the confusion the very first time, like when it was presented? Do you remember going, "Wait, what are you talking about?" Or do you remember like a click of alignment within you? Do you have any knowledge of remembering that?
I did not click with it right away,
Okay,
because my beliefs were so strong about my God source and all of those things that I was curious though. Like I didn't not believe, but I was like, no way, how could this
yeah,
work? You know?
yeah,
And so the curiosity of that and understanding it more as I went through more healing, it just now that clicked, over a period
right.
of time. But yeah, no, it did not click right away. I'm like, what
So
are you
great.
talking
That
about?
that's awesome to bring forward. So anybody listening, if this is not going to click right away, we
Mhm.
are not here to change your mind, especially when it comes to the God package, but really allow this, if you choose, to kind of percolate, kind of let it sit there in the back of your, I don't know, subconscious mind and conscious, even, to maybe just let it kind of seep in there, think about it, connect some dots, etc. So basically the gist is, when we are in between lifetimes, and first and foremost, most people have to really believe in reincarnation if
Yeah,
they're into
right.
this process. So there's another layer for Catholics, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell the story of my dear mother who used to say, "Oh, Suzanne, we don't believe in reincarnation." And I would say, "Well, we do." We meaning we do. And now she's 89 years old and talks about her past lives like normal, which I think is a hoot. But it was a very Catholic thing that wasn't real. And of course, in my opinion, there is reincarnation because I speak with people on all sides of the veil and here and there and everywhere. And we are designed to actually come back and have experiences on behalf of God's source many times over, because that's what this creational body and this experience and this humanness is about, is
Mhm.
creating experiences on behalf of source.
Yeah.
So when we are in the what we would call the in-between, this is when we are back at source energy. If you want to use the words heaven for your visual, that's great. It just basically is the I am presence. And we are not a body at this point. We are not even a soul, particularly. We are the essence of our soul and our whole essence of being. So we are basically the I am presence right at that point with the source. And in that in between, that individual essence of our soul eventually does be in charge of the concept, the idea, the creation of bringing forward another life experience. Nothing in energies up there, if we want to use those terms,
Mhm.
tell us that we have to come back and do anything. It is 100% our individualized choice, but that choice is guided in between lives. It is guided by our angelics, our literal guardian angel that, traverses with us from lifetime to lifetime. It has our benevolent beings, our ancestral lines, possibly, whatever we believe in that is assisting us and all of creational reality to get higher in vibration, understand more, grow more. That's what assists us in between lives to determine not only what this life path is going to look like, be like, but what planetary system, what galaxy, what universe, where are the co-players, what am I going to accomplish in terms of lessons or opportunities, and so forth. And so you, as this essence and being, before we are incarnated, are in charge of this. And I bring this forward a lot with a visual, and I write about it in both of my books, the Energy Healer's Book of Dying and Confident Empath, in terms of, I see it and I teach it oftentimes like a corporate boardroom, because that goes back to my corporate head. I remember being in charge of my team. I remember coming in for an event that we're producing or designing, and I put my whole team in the room. Somebody's logistics, somebody's creative, somebody is advertising, somebody's sales, right? You put your team together because each of these beings or these bodies that are participatory in this experience that you're going into has a place and a reason and their own, let's say, strategies or tactics that back up their expertise or what they need or what they want. It's similar in that you're in charge of this so-called benevolent boardroom, and that you are the one that is saying, yes, I would like you this time. No, I would not like you this round. So it doesn't a boardroom crack you up because we both came from corporate?
It totally works for me because I have the logical business type mind that I've always been working with. But when you talk about how this sets up, one of the things is you put your strategy together first, right? Like
Exactly.
those first things, and then you assign your people to who's going to do what to make sure that strategy happens.
And think of our corporate days, Kim. You have to have somebody with a marketing tweak, or you have to have somebody with a logistics tweak. Let's do logistics. I mean, we did really large corporate events, both of us, and I would have to have that input from that so-called logistics employee to say, oh my God, Suzanne, we have got to be prepared for this, this, and this. So we are looking at these benevolent beings or these other souls to intimately and intricately completely meld into the experience on our behalf, because we are doing this together. Hence the word contract, meaning I am contracting with this being because you're getting something and I'm getting something. So it's a co-learning or co-opportunity experience. But I really want to point out that we are in charge of it. I can always say, I don't want you for logistics this time. I want this new one,
Right.
So we're in charge of all of this. And
I have a question though. Does your team, like when you're sitting here, like, because the visual, you've got your team. I would have guessed that team members come and go depending on what type of strategy or experience you're looking for or lessons, right?
Really good point. And sometimes, let's say I have had a soul pod or a soul family that will keep incarnating also to do what we would call old karma. Now, this is starting to not happen any longer because our energies are changing so much. Old forms of karma is I abuse you, you abuse me. I abuse you, you abuse me, then I abuse you. And we played these roles back and forth. That's kind of old and kind of like wearing itself out. But opportunity is still there. Like, I would like to assist you and elevate you and, support you. So we're still having that return karma flip-flop with some of our family biological members, for example, but not necessarily in a tragic, horrible way like it used to be, because that was really about negative programming. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still go back and forth with certain biology or family lineage lines to ascend or help us both grow in a great way. So yeah, that's a good point. And then sometimes I bring in somebody from another lifetime or another timeline, or maybe it's a future timeline, etc. So this is very fluid when we are making the actual determination. Now, this is the part that people don't like. When I, for example, do have a very difficult lesson that I am choosing to experience on behalf of Source, if I am, for whatever purpose, my soul is wanting to have a difficult lesson, say I really am going to internalize and understand once and for all that I am not a victim, that I am not no worth, that I am really not abandoned by source energy, and so on and so forth. It is imperative for me to sign up with co-players to offer the difficult side of that contract in the beginning parts of my life. Hence, I have a really difficult childhood. I'm abandoned by that parent. I'm abused by that parent, or not seen, or feel invisible. And this is the part that people buck, because I get it. They're going to say, there's no way, Suzanne, that I would sign up for that. That's just stupid. Nobody signs up for abuse. Nobody signs up to be hurt or abandoned. And I say, yes, you did. Because in the eyes of source, there isn't a value system on good and bad, right or wrong. It is a growth pattern, period, on the experience. And if I am signing up for me to come full circle in an experience on behalf of source and flip from victimization into 100% self-love, growth, worth, adoration, all of that, I have to have the difficult curriculum, or I don't know the opposite side of the coin. But this one really pulls the rug out from people. Do you remember that?
Of course it does. Who wants to sign up to be abused as a child? You
Right.
know, physically, emotionally, whatever it might be. Who signs up to be sick? You know,
Right.
to have a major illness as any time in your life. You know, that part of it was like, why would I do that? Why? You know, it doesn't make sense.
Because you're using a 3D head, and you're
Yes.
using a 3D personality, and you're putting personality to those choices. And it's very critical that we remember God source doesn't have a personality. There isn't a judgment. There is nothing wrong with difficulty, conflict, pain, and agony, because this is just an experience on the flip side of things. And it is imperative that source knows all fractalizations, all paradigms, all prismatic viewpoints of itself. And so again, source doesn't see it as that, but we bring it into a personality profile of being 3D and human, and we put such judgment on it. Let's
And
go back to your
emotion. Like, think
yeah,
about
and
the
emotion.
emotion.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
when you're making that choice as as an essence, there's no emotion involved. You know,
correct.
you're making choices. And then what clicked for me is when I realized that my essence is a good essence, and I'm going to go back to that essence. So no matter what my experience is, you know, I will get through it, or I go back. You know,
Right.
it's like that part of the choice. Then it made sense to me, because I could understand why you would sign up for something more like that.
And this is even more deep in terms of, remember, when we're in that boardroom and we're signing up for that being to also incarnate during my life cycle to be that other side of the coin representative. Remember, there's consecutive boardrooms going on at the same time. So let's expand that visual. Not only am I in my boardroom and I'm saying, yes, I will accept you for that difficult role, but simultaneously I am in their boardroom on the other side of the table saying, yes, I will accept this script. So we need to understand, if we choose to really, roll with this idea, that these are consecutive contracts, that every single person that is making a deep and impactful kind of like presence on my life is co-contracted. That doesn't mean that the guy walked by in the grocery store is co-contracted. These are the deep, impactful changes for my soul in evolution or de-evolution. That's what these are about. And there's many, many, many simultaneous contracts going on. And this is where it gets even weirder. There's no time. So I am contracting with my parents, my grandparents, my great-grands. I'm contracting with my children, my grandchildren, my great-grands, if I choose to see it that way, because there's no time. So I may be choosing to leave this planet at a young age, which then affects my child and my grandchild, because they are also signing up without that figure, that mother figure or father figure or whatever, because they are learning something different also. So this interpenetrates timelines as well. And that's super confusing for people at the beginning of this.
I'm sure people right now are going, what did she just say? Like, seriously? Because like, let's say for my situation, I'm deciding what I need for experiences on this earth or in this body when I arrive. And at the same time, though, the higher selves of like my grandparents, parents, even sister who hasn't arrived yet, are all around this table with me.
Yes.
Right? So as we figure out the situation, the people that need to be in there, they're all involved in that from a higher level, subconscious level of participating in whatever these lessons would be.
And
And
so visualize it like they're putting their 2 cents in the boardroom for their participation level, for their journey, for their lesson, for their experience. And so, yes, it's difficult because we don't know limitless time boundaries. We don't understand time is infinite. And so this is very important, because if I have 2 generations of full abandonment or not being heard, or a parent that is shoving rules down and I have no worth, and you can be heard but not seen, or seen but not heard, or whatever, all of those belief systems that come down through biological lineage lines are really part of this, because oftentimes I'll come in as that one that says, absolutely not, I'm changing this history. I am the one that's going to come in and incarnate so that my children and my children's children no longer have that crap going on. And this is very, very common right now, because we are finding ourselves as healers and individuals, if you're doing the work, clearing history lines, not only from abuse and actual actions and emotions, but even from lineage lines of, say, heart disease, cancers, whatever. If we are believing that every single solitary one of us in this family dies of a heart attack at 40, I am going to sign up for that somehow, some way in my subconscious, just because that's a belief system. And what we want to do is really go into our own soul contract and say, maybe I'm the one that's actually changing this biology and this lineage and cell form so that my children no longer carry this, and so on. It gets really deep when we start to really go big with this idea.
yeah, it's huge. That's why it takes a while to really comprehend and buy into it.
Yep.
I there's a whole side of this too that maybe we do in another show, but understanding that we come in our DNA already, with like non-worth and not feeling safe, right? So we're
Yep.
signed up to come in and already feel that way before we even start to experience life, so it's kind of it's just a really difficult. So if anybody's having trouble out there, we get it. It's hard to
Yeah,
understand.
and this might be one that you choose to listen to more than once, possibly, or let it settle for a while and then attack it again, in terms of, breaking open that thought process and that belief system, because it is new and it is hard for many. I, however, have seen profound changes. In my first book, The Energy Healer's Book of Dying, I write a lot about soul contracts, because it is critical, if we are in this vein of thinking, to understand that there's nothing about my loved one that died that wasn't preordained from their highest and best good. No matter, by the way, how they died, because this is part of their path that you and they collectively, cooperatively signed up for. So people will say again, no, he died too young. He didn't get to be a dad. He didn't get to have children. And I will say, which ticks them off, he didn't sign up to be a dad. He didn't sign up to have children, or he would have signed that on and done that creational reality. There are many beings. It is important to expand this idea, because there's many beings that only chose to come in for a very specific amount of time and experiences, because this fulfilled something in their learning. Maybe they just needed the actually in utero process on behalf of them and the parent. The parent loses this child. They have their own lesson, but the child only contracted for that. That's all they needed. That's all they wanted. Or they only contracted for 10 years, or they only contracted for 20 years, etc. When we start to honor that, and that's the word I would like people to put in the forefront of their brain in capitals and bolds and italics, the word honor, because when I honor the concept that that higher self of that being knows exactly what they are doing by leaving planet when and how they did. This removes me from the opportunity of all of the guilt, all of the shame, all of the anger, all of the frustration, all of the victimization of, I should have done more. I wasn't there. I couldn't have changed that. I mean, think of the things that we do that are such wasted energy when we lose a person, because it is not about you. You are grieving on behalf of you, losing your physical incarnation interaction with them. But if we flip that around to honor, in terms of, oh my goodness, their higher self knows exactly what they're doing, and I'm going to step back in neutral and look at, boy, what the heck did I contract for? I must have contracted for losing someone right now, feeling abandoned, feeling like I've lost someone forever. It is my job to reboot that paradigm and say, I haven't lost them forever. They're not in meat body form, but I have not lost them. They're in divine vehicle body form, and they're still here. And these are the lessons that we can move through, and so on. if that
Yeah,
makes some
that
sense.
makes an amazing difference in your perception and your experience in death, for sure.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
even for me, I have not had a lot of death in my life that I've experienced, but I had it very young, and at different points in my life that now I'm like just feel like you said honored and privileged,
yeah.
to have known that person and been part of the life, but know that they're in a much better place in their essence, where they need to be. So
And doing what they need to be doing. Oftentimes that we get so incredibly selfish about losing someone. And it's like, don't you understand that the essence of that soul's got stuff to do? I
yeah,
mean, come on, it's not like we're gone. We got
right.
stuff to do.
And it
And so we
doesn't
can
mean you're
turn
not
that
going to
around.
grieve and go through all of that, because
Right.
you are. It changes your life here in a
Yes.
way that you need to now, and based on your perspective, you will learn how to move forward. And that lesson, for an individual is major,
And
and
thank you for bringing that forward, because this is
Mhm.
not about flippantly moving through a death process or a
No,
loss process.
no,
We do grieve. We do go through the stages of anger, denial, we negotiating. We go through all of it. This does not take away the grief process or the sadness or the feels. What it does is it makes long-term acceptance more available
yeah,
and honoring something bigger than us, which then brings us back to a concept of oneness. Whereas when we don't get to the concept of oneness, we stay very stagnant and lost,
right.
right?
I think it brings, hopefully a person would make better choices in self-care. You see a lot of people that mourn and mourn and mourn, and they're not taking care of themselves, here
Yes.
on this earth. And that's really, that is not what maybe that's part of the lesson, but if their perception is different, they'll choose differently and behave differently and take care of themselves better, which is
And
better for all of us.
phenomenal growth from guilt and shame. I just recently had a client who this was a completely new idea, and he had lost a sibling and felt very guilty because of the participation of, I should have done this, I didn't do this, all of those
Mhm.
ruminations that we do. And especially, let's even advance that concept and idea of suicide. If I've lost somebody and I couldn't fix them, I couldn't change them, I couldn't save them. These are all things that we don't have the right to own. These are actual energies that we manipulate and own when they have nothing to do with us other than the co-contract of support. And this will alleviate so much shame and guilt and upset and all kind, and it gave this man peace that was unbelievable. And he stood up literally and said, I am a completely different person walking out because I never thought of this. It just didn't even enter my mind.
Right.
So again, take what resonates, but obviously for some it does resonate. I want to jump even further into the second book. The Confident Empath book really brings in the soul contracts as well from a different level of what the empath does is we take everyone's worry. So
Mhm.
now the death book is one thing, but maybe my son, my daughter, my friend, my mother, my sister, they're still alive, but my perspective and my perception of them is that I'm worried about them,
Mhm.
that they're not doing their life right, that I need to assist them and help them and change them. This is what is killing the empath on a daily basis, because we are running like crazy people 24/7 and then some to fit in everyone's needs throughout the day, when in essence, this is the same concept we talked about with death, but the beings are still alive. And I am jumping all over their soul contract, not even aware that maybe they contracted to have frustration, anxiety, depression, and I don't get to change that.
Right.
And this is the biggest one that's killing everybody right now, is worry.
Worry's big. It changes your whole physical body. I mean, think of the diseases that come from worry.
Mhm.
Diabetes is a major one, heart problems, all of the things that
Cholesterol. Yep.
cholesterol is tough.
High blood pressure.
It is, and it's hard, especially as a mother or a sibling or a daughter or whatever, not to worry. It's we were like, especially if you're brought up to worry,
Mhm.
worry was at the forefront. And that was a really difficult thing to step back and say, my children, while they may be making a decision or doing something I don't agree with, it is their journey.
Yeah.
And even looking at my parents or my sister, it's like, those are decisions and choices they're making. And I have to, I'll just be neutral in that because it's their journey. And it's
Because
not an easy.
free will is the whole key. They get to, that's my mantra. They get to, right?
Yep.
The only thing
Yep.
I'm in charge of is I get to. What do I get to do with what they get to do? What do I get to do with that is the only thing I'm in charge of. And for many, many years, and still sometimes now, people have, especially my family, always said, you don't care. You just don't care. You don't have any compassion. And I always retort with, actually, I'm the one that really does care in terms of really understanding. I don't get to care and I don't get to change it. I get to care by holding neutral. I get to care by honoring what is happening and not judging. And when we really get that in the empath book, oh my gosh, does it change your whole entire reality? Because you start to realize I am a co-contractor in soul. I do not have the right to change their soul path. Why would I intervene my perspective and my choices and my judgments onto someone else's soul journey just so that I can feel better about me? It is so incredibly off in
It's
alignment,
just
right?
control. It's controlling, and I can fix it, and I can, do, and it's not for you to do. And
And it,
what's interesting though in this situation is, and maybe you have more insight into this, but to step back and ask what my role is in this.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what experience am I getting from this? What's the lesson that I'm learning? Because I never looked at it that way before. It was always the other person, and I was somewhat
yep.
of a victim in whatever was happening.
And
So
so use this wording if you choose to. Why am I co-creating this? Because I'm not
that's
co-creating my daughter having depression and anxiety, but I am co-creating it in being a co-partner in this. So why am I creating the co-creation of a daughter with depression and anxiety? What does this mean for me in
yeah.
my own lesson? And I don't get to, if I'm in neutral, go in and fix him or her or them because they're not broken.
Mhm.
And you tromping on that soul contract and trying to fix because you're an empath is because your body is not feeling good and you don't feel like you've done enough to prove your worth. And the actuality is you are stomping on a lesson that is really integral in terms of what they came in to experience, and how dare us do that.
Mhm.
It's fascinating when we pull the
Yeah.
neutral on
Well,
this.
and what just came into my head was the hero and savior,
Mm-hmm.
to I'm going to be the hero in this and fix and take care of it. And then that validates that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I am who I should be. And it's
Which,
not.
by the way, is the bigger program. And so
Yeah.
this is the
Huge
bigger
programming.
program. And we can even jump that confident empath information up to a larger field. And that's why I wrote that book from a multidimensional level, meaning we can also empath on a collective field. We can empath, oh my God, the whole world's going to hell. Oh my God, I have to lose my mind. Oh my God, I have to fix everything and everyone because the whole world is dying. And I take on the entire universal energies of collective nausea. It's like, I'm sick. I'm constantly feel like crap. Oh my God. And it's just ridiculous. You don't have that power. What power you do have, however, is your own individualized container, which then does shift that collective. So if I go back to self-responsibility, own my own contract, see my own part, do my own work in a personal journey to raise my frequency, that in and of itself is the key.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's just such a big thing that we're talking about. So, I mean, question, you talked about victimization, but when you're talking about empowerment, can we go into that a little bit more? Like, what
Sure,
that
let's
means for your whole being?
Yeah, let's use a child that lost a parent because these were really tough ones. And I lost a parent when I was 8, and now I have been victimized because I didn't have a father figure. And I go through my life not feeling supported in male energy, meaning safe, meaning no one's there for me, meaning I'm abandoned. And I that is the victimization that comes with the initial contract of the father leaving. Okay. And the father could leave planet, the father could leave in a way of being an alcoholic, the father could leave in a million different ways, but let's just go with it's gone. So now I go into my adulthood. And if I am not understanding and honoring that contract and starting to do the deep work of the soul saying, no, I am value, I am worth, I do have male frequencies in my life. And if I don't have them, I will create them and find them, all the way from male frequencies of God source. I can find Father God connections. I can find male angelics or anything. I can extend this to, I can hug a tree to
Mhm.
find that frequency of being safe on this planet because the male energy is about, am I safe? on this planet, and you are safe on this planet because you're here and you're attached to it and all of creational reality. And when we start to do that journey and find that frequency, find that love, find that connection, and I'm moving through it, I then flip the second half of my life from absolute victimization to full empowerment to say, I am one with everything. There's no way I'm invisible. There's no way I'm abandoned. Just because I can't see something in a father figure and meat and bone and body in front of my life does not mean that I am not safe and taken care of. So this is the flip of the curriculum, is to be able to stop that madness. But there are many people walking on this planet that will use that loss of parent in childhood as their quote unquote story, which I also write about in The Confident Empath. When we have that story, I will use that story over and over and grow that story and own that story and feed that story of I was never complete. I was abandoned. I wasn't good enough. Someone left me. I wasn't safe. And none of it is true.
Well,
in terms of energy.
That is automatic. You don't even think about the words anymore when you tell that story.
Right.
Like it's just embedded. It's so deeply embedded that you don't even think about it when you say it.
So it's true as a belief system. It's true as an energetic reality because I create it. But the actual reality is there's no way it can be true because energy is infinite. Mm-hmm. And we can choose to exchange our so-called package of what that energy is from a meat and bone biological father that chose to leave this planet because he chose to assist you in this lesson. He chose to assist you in this lesson, and you haven't honored the fact that he's done that. So this is such deep work. And sometimes I will totally say, sometimes people don't give 2 cents about it and they don't want to do it, and that's fine too. But the people that do possibly embrace it the way that they choose to and understand it have profoundly changed their lives.
Well, how does forgiveness fit into this? Because it's not only about your own, well, it is about yourself and how you're working through this, but I would think that the whole idea of forgiveness has to be maybe part of this, even if it's not of the other person, of yourself.
Yeah, both. And that's a really good point. Thanks for showing that up too, because let's say that my 21-year-old kid got hammered and smashed into a tree and, I never have gotten over it. And here it is 40 years later, and I'm still angry. I'm angry that A, that kid chose to drink. And I'm angry that B, I wasn't a good enough parent to know that that kid was going to end up like that. And it's all mixed up anger, right? And now I'm angry at myself because I can't let go of it. So the forgiveness happens all the way around in any way you choose to find that, if you even choose to find it, is really just letting everything and everyone off the hook, because forgiveness is about belief systems of something wasn't right, something was wrong, I wasn't good enough, they shouldn't have done this, I should have known better, etc. This is a huge one with suicide, by the way. And I can't forgive you for taking your life. I can't forgive you for ruining our reputation in the whole entire community, and so on and so forth. But really what I'm not forgiving is I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I wasn't good enough parent to know that something was wrong. So these are all belief systems that are actually narrations because we're choosing the storyline. Mm-hmm. If indeed we step back and we say, wow, that person may, by the way, have actually contracted to leave this planet via suicide, or they left this planet with a free will choice that overrode their own individualized soul contract for whatever choice. Mm-hmm. None of that I'm responsible for, or nor can I change. Right. So when we actually separate that all into neutrality, step back and honor the space, this is when we can find forgiveness.
Not easy.
And I want to add one more thing in here, because people are going to be pissed off at the whole thing about abuse. We do not have to ever forgive physical abuse in terms of the action. This doesn't mean that, oh, my dad who beat the living daylights out of me, Suzanne told me I have to forgive him. I have to forgive him for, throwing me against the wall when I was 5. That is not what I'm saying at all. Do not misunderstand. And hopefully they've listened all the way through this, because halfway through, when they're pissed off, that says, oh, she's thinking I'm supposed to forgive that action. Absolutely not. You do not have to forgive any poor behavior that is a free will choice and or even a contracted choice. What you are forgiving and letting go is that very highest elevation status of choosing the lesson I don't need to have that toxic person in my life. I don't need to be around them. I don't need to do anything for my own body to be humanly feeling safe. I can stay away from them, write them off, never speak to them again. But I need to be doing that with a love frequency for the idea of releasing the contract, not the idea of releasing that person's bad behavior. And I really hope that's coming through strong.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. The way that you explained it, because I can't imagine what people go through and how you forgive some of the things,
these are the people that are sitting on, in prison, and I can forgive you for killing my son or my daughter. I don't forgive your action of taking my son or my daughter's life. What I forgive is my anger towards the 3D realm of this. I open up to the concept of that daughter or that son of mine contracted to leave this planet, and this person assisted them from that highest level. I don't understand in any way, shape, or form in my body how someone could do that to my child. Mm-hmm. These are two totally different things. And so really where the release is coming is up here in the contractual agreement, allowing that son or daughter to leave planet. That's what I'm letting go of, so that I am not chewing myself up 24/7 with anger towards a person who's sitting in a jail cell. This is the big difference.
So we
the
talk
freedom
about the freedom of that, but I'm talking about what happens when you hold that anger in. I mean, this
oh
is
my God. Yeah.
And
you're sick, you're angry, you project that anger, you don't trust life, you don't trust people. You are literally ruining your own experience of God's source creational reality by being angry. When we can step back and know that that son or that daughter contracted to leave this planet, and I can make peace with that. And I have a co-lesson in here. What is that co-lesson? Oh, this co-lesson is finding peace within my existence and learning how to be with that son or that daughter without that meat and body experience. How do I do that? I find them in a bird. I find them in the wind, a cloud, the sky. I literally do the soul work to connect with that being and learn from it instead of being really pissed off someone sitting in a jail cell.
Right. That's just because anger is very, very destructive for self and others.
And trust me, people will really, really not hear this and go, I am so upset at Suzanne for saying this. She literally just told me my son or my daughter is supposed to die. And it is not what I'm saying at all. She's literally sitting there making a judgment on it was okay that my son or my daughter got murdered or killed. That is not what I'm saying. And if you can't get the clarity in this, listen again or walk away, because it is not what I'm saying in any way, shape, or form. So this is about honor. This is about understanding a bigger perspective. This is about knowing these incarnation lives are a blip on the radar of continually soul processes, of evolutions, of being, of soul families, of soul pods, of soul essences, so that we all grow and change collectively. So, listen harder if you're pissed off, because then it didn't click.
Right. Right. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, I know this is a doozer. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. Take what resonates, toss the rest. You don't have to believe this. It's not my job to change your mind. And yeah, it's a lot. So on behalf of Kim and I, go ahead.
That, go ahead and go back to, I think you did a really good job in your book of Confident Empath of talking about, the soul contract and the things around it. Not just that, but there's other things that go around that.
Oh, huge. Yeah. And this one is the other one, the Energy Healers Book of Dying. This one is also on my website. This one is really important for people with loss and grief, because they are so angry that somebody died. And this can completely change your existence in that if you open your head and your heart to that, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of information. And again, it's not an easy concept. It takes time, for yourself to come to terms and perspective around this based on yourself. So.
And this might be one of those actual podcasts that you share with someone that is, struggling, and then talk it through. If your perspective and your understanding is bigger than someone who is suffering or grieving, maybe this is a great thing to digest together, but never force it on someone, because they don't have to believe this in any way, shape, or form, nor does anyone listening. But I think that what this offers is freedom and sovereignty and joy and love again, versus being angry and frustrated. So it's a lot. I get it. Take what resonates, share the video, like the video, send the video around, participate.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely say, put a comment in there, and we appreciate any feedback.
Yeah,
Definitely.
really we do. So
Mhm.
as always, thank you very much for spending time with us. We will see you soon with another episode of Energy Unleashed. On behalf of Kim and I, cosmic hugs.
See ya. Bye.